I've been presenting at What Works, every single What Works, every month for the last 2 years. But I'm not a teacher. I'm not connected with schools, other than the fact that I run a consultancy business that deals with a lot of creativity and innovation within organisations. Through that work, I've been working with KHDA for the last 3 years nearly now, and I also do a lot of work with school children, in schools, and with youth and with young adults. The topic of creativity and innovation is something I'm absolutely passionate about, and what I hope to show to you this morning are basically ways that we can invigorate and enliven creativity within school children, okay, and within yourselves, okay? So my name is Helen. I've been in Dubai for the last 16 years, and I guess my other real connection with schooling and school children, I've got 3 children who are no longer children, 17, 20 and 22. So I've also seen the other side of the equation, trying to engender creativity within children. And my kids kind of cover the spectrum. So I've got one who's a virtual reality designer, artistic, one training to be a lawyer, and I've got one who's going into science across the board. What I want to show to you today, though, is how it's important for creativity and innovation to span all of those disciplines. Whether it's maths, science, arts, we need creativity and innovation, okay? So I'm going to start with a quote from Albert Einstein to give you some context. And one of the reasons that I thought creativity and innovation is so important, the children of today are going into an entirely different world than the world we've grown up in. In all reality, most children are likely to have up to 30 jobs throughout their lifespan. Okay? No problem.
This is a problem, actually.
It's fun. Okay? Okay? So most children will have about 30 jobs in their lifespan. They'll be changing jobs, they'll be asked to deal with problems and challenges that we and previous generations have helped to create, okay? So the way that they approach issues, the way that they approach problems needs to change. And within the school system currently, what often tends to happen is that we learn by example. We learn set solutions to set problems. I'm going to play for you a very short video that gives you an example of how we can apply, for example, creativity within the field of science. And the reason I'm showing it to you is back to this context about having the need for, whether you're a scientist or a mathematician or a geographer, whatever you happen to be, the need to actually embrace creativity and innovation. Okay? And bear with me 2 seconds. Technology got the better of me, so I couldn't quite embed it.
3.4 million people die each year from water-related disease. But the even bigger problem, most of them don't even know that water is unsafe to drink in the first place. That's why Water is Life, partnering with scientists and engineers at Carnegie Mellon and the University of Virginia, set out to invent a solution that solves both of these problems. Introducing the Drinkable Book, the first ever tool that teaches safe water habits and is printed on technologically advanced filter paper capable of killing deadly waterborne diseases.
My name is Terry Dinkovich. I am a chemist. I invented a paper that purifies drinking water. After passing water through our filter, we found a reduction of greater than 99.9% in bacteria count, which is comparable to the tap water in this country.
The book uses a brand new type of paper that works like a scientific coffee filter. Each piece is coated with silver nanoparticles, which kill diseases like cholera, E. coli, and typhoid.
The orange color of the paper is a direct result of the addition of the silver nanoparticles. And at the end of the day, the most important thing, and really the hero of this whole project, is the technology.
The book itself works in 3 easy steps. Simply tear out a filter, slide it into the custom filter box, and pour contaminated water through. What comes out is safe to drink. The content on each page, printed in food-grade ink, educates people about safe water habits, things that we take for granted, such as keeping trash and feces away from your water source. But the best part of the book isn't just that it purifies water or teaches proper sanitation, it's the fact that this filter paper will revolutionize water purification. It costs only pennies to produce, making it by far the cheapest option on the market, and it's extremely sustainable. Each filter is capable of giving someone up to 30 days worth of clean water, and each book is capable of providing someone with clean water for up to 4 years. To learn how you can provide a filter book for a community in need, head to waterislife.com.
Okay, so one of the things that we can do with the school children today is to show them examples, show them how technology is linking with science, is linking with creativity and innovation in order to solve some of the problems that we face within the global community. There was a long-held belief that we were right or left-hand brain thinkers. So we would tend to think of ourselves as either creative or analytical. Any of you within the room tend to put yourself in one of those two categories? How many of you think that you're more inclined to be a creative thinker? So does that mean the rest of you all think you're analytical?
That's why we're here, I guess.
Yeah? Okay, so I challenge that concept because I think we all have an innate abundance and ability to be creative. What I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to give you an opportunity to actually warm up your brain, okay, and get all parts of the brain working in. Without a shadow of a doubt, there are certain functions that require the use of one or various parts of the brain, but typically we don't have a dominant brain side. We don't. Yeah, it's a myth that we create and it almost becomes an excuse. And it's similar to the fact that we say we can't sing, we can't draw, etc. Okay? We need to get beyond that and we need to help our children to actually understand that they need to be beyond it as well. So can I ask you to stand up, and what I'd need you to be is in groups of 4. Okay? Can I ask you to stand up and just come to the side? And I want you to position yourselves so that you nominate one person as the brain. Okay? So if it's not scary. Listen, I never get anybody to do anything I wouldn't do myself. And what you need to do, you need to have the brain will stand central. One of you stands to the side, facing the left ear. One of you will stand to the side, facing the right ear. And one of you will stand facing the brain. Okay? So you're forming this little triangle. Okay? Can you all get into position? You need one person is the brain, one person standing to the left, one person standing to the right, and one person standing at the front. Okay? This is the test to see if teachers can follow instructions. Okay? So we need one more person at the back. Is there anybody not in a group of 4? Okay. Is there anybody else who can join this group? One of you ladies, can you join this group? Okay. Okay, so you're in your groups. Now, does anybody need to be put into a group? So let me explain the instructions to you. This is an activity that involves all of these actions that I asked you to do to continue all at the same time. Okay? The challenge and the task of the brain is to answer a series of questions and also to follow a series of actions. The person facing the brain is going to be responsible for giving directions for actions, and quite simply the person facing the brain will make actions. Doesn't matter what, and the brain needs to follow them. You mirror exactly what you see. Okay? At the same time, okay, so let me give you an example. So if this lady is the brain, okay, you need to mirror everything I do. Okay? At the same time, the person who is standing on the left-hand side, the right-hand side of the brain will be asking some very simple maths questions. Okay? And I mean simple. Any of you that are maths teachers, no formula here, all right? So we're talking 1 plus
Yeah, to the brain.
nothing complicated, okay? So it's 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, etc. Okay. Now bearing in mind, the brain is still mirroring the actions in front of her, and she's answering the question. As the number asker, I've got no sympathy. I keep asking the question until you answer.
Okay.
Once you answer, I ask the next question. Okay, so 1 plus 1, she says 2.
Then
2
I will
plus 2,
proceed.
exactly, okay? But you've got a third person, okay?
Left side.
On the left side. So the person on the left-hand side, and I'll borrow you, is asking a series of questions relating to colour.
Oh, color.
So it can be colour of the sky, simple stuff, not what colour is my car, yeah? So what colour is the sky? What colour is the grass? What colour is the sea?
At the same time, the three of us doing this.
Exactly.
Job. Okay, great.
Okay. And the brain is going to have to...
Actions go on, the number.
Exactly, okay? Okay? So this is going to get the brain really warmed up. Is everybody clear with the instructions? Okay? So after three, I'm going to get you started and I'll walk around and just keep it going, okay? 1, 2, 3, start. Ask your numbers. 1 plus 1. Are you colours? Ask colours. Don't pause, keep it going, keep it going. Don't pause, keep it going, all three at the same time. Keep it going quickly.
I want to be this working properly, please.
Keep it going as fast.
What is the color?
Okay, and stop. And stop. And stop. Stop. Okay? How is the brain feeling? The brain swapped. Okay, why did the brain swap?
I couldn't just concentrate.
Okay, so I have one group here that said the brain has stopped working. Okay, take a seat, please. Now, some people cope really well with that activity. I have some people that it doesn't faze them at all. What happens to most people, and if you were the brain, I'll ask you to check this, what tends to happen is not only do you get this psychological effect on your brain, but you get a physiological effect. And what tends to happen is that your body heats up. And if you feel the top of your shoulders in particular, most people who act as the brain, you will feel heat radiating from the top of their shoulders, because we're getting different parts of the brain functioning at one time, okay? Just a small activity, one to get you up and get you moving. It's far better than coffee, okay? If we had longer, I'd get you to swap between. Okay, so creativity in children. There was a study back in 1968 by a gentleman called George Land. And this was a research study to test for divergent thinking. And it was a research study that started initially by a commission from NASA. And NASA wanted to find the most creative and innovative engineers, scientists, astronauts, as you would hope NASA would. And that same study that was used very successfully for the NASA project was then developed for use with children. And this was a longitudinal study, so it was conducted over a 10-year period. And what this study identified was, across the ages of children, starting at the ages of 3 to 5, kindergarten children typically have an ability to think divergently, i.e. to think of multiple problems to particular issues, challenges that are set for them. They're at genius level. 98% of them show extraordinary levels of divergent thinking. Those same children were measured ages 8 to 10. Their ability to think divergently had dropped to 50%. So only 50% of them, so these are the same children, were still able to demonstrate that level of divergent thinking. 13 to 15-year-olds, it's dropped to 12%. At ages 21, 22 and above, which I think puts most of the people in this room in this category, not quite zero, yeah, although judging on the number of hands that went up in the room, we are at 0, 2%. Okay? So one of the questions to pose yourself, if we have this innate extraordinary ability with very young children, something is clearly happening along the way. And one of the issues that we have is that we don't test that ability, we don't try divergent thinking quite as often as we should do. We don't engage in activities that encourage children to think divergently. There's no reason that we can't maintain some of these extraordinary levels through the years. And one of the things for our age group, I'll put myself in the same category, is that we need to lose the fear about thinking creatively. Okay? There's another test for creativity or divergent thinking, which is called the Torrance test. You might have seen examples for how many uses you can create for a paperclip. So the test I'm going to give you, and I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes, I want you to think up of as many different uses for a toothbrush as you possibly can. Okay? So I'll give you 1 minute. Start listing down as many uses for a toothbrush as you possibly can. Okay? Okay, and stop. So how many of you have got more than 10 uses for a toothbrush?
10 is a big number.
10 is a big number.
I have 32 teeth, so it's 32 cleaning up.
One at a time. Okay. Okay, how many of you have got 10 examples of uses of a toothbrush? Okay. So show me some examples. What are some uses of a toothbrush?
The first, the purpose of the toothbrush is for cleaning the teeth.
Okay.
The second one is the tongue.
Okay.
Removing dirt from anything.
Okay.
Then scrubbing the floor.
Okay.
Cleaning the sink, cleaning the stove. Jewelries. It can also be used for artworks. Removing dust from coat and...
Okay, perfect. Any other examples? Spray painting, okay. Anything else?
Corners, cleaning up the corners in the house.
Corners, clean them, yeah.
Crevices, ledges.
Crevices, ledger, okay.
Poking your friend.
Okay, fine.
We can use it for hand puppets, some dolls we can make. We can use it for non-standard measurement in maths for different sizes.
Okay,
of objects.
nice.
We can use it for sorting, patterning, color recognition for children in kindergarten.
Listen, and you guys said you weren't creative, yeah? So many opportunities, so many examples that you can think of.
Sensory also.
Okay, perfect. Often, the challenge for us is how we ask questions. If I ask you this question, what's the sum of 5 plus 5? What is the answer?
10 apples.
Typically, we all say 10, okay? Because there's only one solution. We've been presented with a very standard question. If, however, I ask you what two numbers equal 10,
7 plus 3.
Infinitely many.
infinite number of potential solutions, because we're presenting different routes in order to come to the same solution, okay? So if we think of the basis of the way that we ask the question changes the solution that we come up with, each of you using the paper that you've got in front of you, just design a vase for me, okay? A vase to hold some flowers. Okay? You're pretty much done? Yeah? So, all showing creativity, all showing various options, but fundamentally we've created the same type of solution. If, however, I frame the question so that I ask you to design a better way for people to enjoy flowers in the home, think of what some of the options would be if I ask you that question instead of the first one. Okay? Just spend 1 minute thinking of a better way for people to enjoy flowers in their home. If you want to discuss some potential solutions with the people sitting next to you, that's not a problem. Collaboration is a good way to be creative. Okay, so share with me some solutions. What are some of your solutions for a better way for people to enjoy flowers in the home? Give me an example.
Seashell as a cover for the outside.
Okay, so decorating it in a different way, absolutely, okay.
Have floral wallpaper.
Floral wallpaper, yeah, they don't have to be physical flowers.
Picture frame of a dried flower.
Picture frames of, yeah, dried flowers. Fragrance, yeah, absolutely.
Painting.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Use the petals, you have to use all of it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We can have big bowls with flower petals and candles. The floating ones.
Absolutely, okay. So the same principle as the 5+5, if we frame the question in a different way, we get a multitude of different solutions, and that's what inspires and creates the creativity and innovation. And that can be applied to anything. So one of the ways that you can start to inspire and fuel creativity is to reverse the way that we ask questions. So we don't ask questions that ultimately lead to the same solutions. And one of the ways that's used a lot within creative industries is phrasing questions related to how might we. And it's a very simple structure, but that simple structure suggests how the possibility, might the fact that there is a solution, and that it's a collaborative exercise. Because often we find that when we work together and we've got different mindsets, the example that I showed you about the drinkable book, the science, the technology, the design agency, bringing all those elements together is what creates true innovation. We don't necessarily have to have the three brains all working at the same time within ourselves. We can have different people providing those roles and support for us. One of the other really important things that we, and typically as adults, we're absolutely terrible at, but one thing that children, particularly young children, are really, really good at, and that's embracing failure. So it's said that Thomas Edison, in discovering the solution of the light bulb, failed 1,000 different times. Yeah? But failure is only failure if we don't learn from the results that came before. Yeah? If we learn from what we've encountered, we learn and then we develop a future example. And within the design sectors, and a lot of organizations now are using a technique called design thinking. And design thinking is a means of developing models and prototypes. Really rough, simple examples with paper, pens, craft materials to create a really rough first draft, test out how it works, and then move on to developing more sophisticated or alternative solutions. And the design thinking prototyping technique can be used across any discipline. Yeah, it can be used with young children. The story of the gingerbread man, how does the gingerbread man get across the river without being eaten by the fox? Get the children to create a prototype, a working model, a potential solution, could be anything, to enable the gingerbread man to get across the river. Okay? And we can test it. We can see what the results are. And do you know what? If we get it wrong, that's actually not a bad thing, because we're going to learn. In relation to that concept of failure, and one of the things that we tend to fear, we fear getting things wrong, but we also fear things not being perfect, which is one of the reasons that if people say, can you sing? We typically say no, because very few of us are pitch perfect, but we all have the ability to sing. Yeah? Some of us might do it in the shower or in the car to save other people's eardrums, but we all have the ability. We all have the ability to draw. We all have the ability to be creative. On your paper that you've got in front of you, I want you to put a number of different squiggles, just 4 or 5. There are some examples for you. Okay? Just have a doodle. Okay? And now you've got 4 or 5 doodles on your paper, and each and every one of those into a bird. Okay? And all you need to do on each of those squiggles, put a beak, an eye, 2 legs, and a tail. And a beak. Beak. Okay? So I can see from the examples in front of me that those squiggles have been transformed into something which is undeniably, absolutely recognisable as a bird. Okay? Now if I'd said to you at the start of that exercise, draw a bird, yeah? I would have heard the sigh of desperation go around the room. I can't draw. Yeah? It doesn't matter. Because the point at the bottom of that slide is the important aspect. Perfection is the enemy of creativity. If we try and be perfect, and we will only do what we believe we can do perfectly, we end up doing very little. And back to that principle of the prototyping examples, build something rough. Build something that's a very loose example of what we try to develop, and we refine it. We develop it over time, and ultimately, it will become more perfect. But the mind has an amazing capability to fill in the gaps. Yeah? We just need to recognise that and overcome that and be comfortable with the fact that we actually can be creative. There's an awful lot of people in this room, but I will attempt to, can I actually just hand these back, and I'll start also from the back. And what I need is each of you to take 1 sheet of paper, okay? Okay. Okay, there you go. Has everybody got a sheet of paper with circles on? Extra? Perfect. Okay. So again, for the mathematicians in the room, you do not need to count. There are 30 circles on this paper. Okay? Those 30 circles, you are now going to turn each and every one of them into an object. Okay? And you have exactly 1 minute to complete this exercise. Before you start, because I'm a very kind, generous individual, I will show you an example. I'm going to show you on the screen very briefly. Once I show you, it'll be on the screen for a few seconds. and then I remove it, and then you start. Okay? Okay? And go. And I'm not checking my messages, I am timing you. And if any of you finish in under 1 minute, you can stand up and shout Eureka. You've got 20 seconds remaining. And stop. So how many of you have completed all 30? Okay. Do we need to warm the brain up again, or is coffee needed? Okay. Do you think it's possible to complete all 30 circles in 1 minute?
No.
Okay. Kids can do it, exactly. Kids can do it. And I've proven this. So I ran a session with a group of school children, and one 8-year-old boy completed all 30 circles in 40 seconds. Yeah? How did he do it?
Stand.
No. But he could have done.
We are looking for perfection. So.
Exactly. The rules are starting to kick in. The reality, he put exactly the same thing in every single circle. Yeah? Because one thing that kids are really good at is not creating rules. And I will put money on the fact that every single one of you, as you started that activity, your brain will tell you to ask questions. Yeah? Most of you are typically, can I? You want to ask, but regardless, our brains are telling us we can or we can't do something. Can I put the same in every box, every circle? And if you don't have confirmation of that, you don't do it. Yeah? I ran this last week, and 2 girls sitting next to each other, one took one side, one took the other side. It works. They completed. Yeah? If we want to be creative and innovative, the reality is there are no rules. Now, you might not be willing to walk into a class of 25 or 30 kids and say, there are no rules. But if we want them to be comfortable with thinking divergently and to think about potential creative solutions, we have to free them from the mindset that, unfortunately, every single one of us is trapped into. Yeah? Sorry to say, but we're in that 2%. Okay? And we're in that 2% because we've been conditioned that way. Through school, through home, through work. That's the way our brains have been created to function. Okay? So my last message for you is about breaking the rules and having fun. And I started with a quote from Einstein, and I'm going to finish with a quote from Einstein. Creativity is intelligence having fun. And if we embrace the ability to have fun, then we'll end up with far more creative solutions. And in relation to a concept that children might engage with, not quite Einstein, but Dr. Seuss, think left, think right, think high, think low, think high. Oh, the things you can think if only you try. Okay? So thank you for your attention. I hope that's given you some inspiration, not just for the classroom, but also for yourself, in terms of how you can think more creatively. Okay? Thank you. I don't often have time for questions, but today I actually do. So thank you for being such a big group and being so well coordinated. Do any of you have any questions? Be creative, ask me anything.
management books which says that education kills creativity. So does that mean that as teachers, when we seem to be very powerful in imparting education, that's what we would like to believe? Are we responsible somehow in killing creativity in kids?
So the argument that schools kill creativity is an argument that's espoused by Sir Ken Robinson. And he uses the research study that I put in this example, he uses that as evidence that that is the case. Personally, I don't believe that that is the case. I think there are some challenges within the school education system and the way that we tend to teach that can lead to limitations in creativity. But the fact is, it's not the only factor. Yeah, there's something, and I can't, we're hardwired in some way to lose that. And part of it, to be quite honest, I think is simply the fact that over time, we lose the ability to play. And what we see in the very young children is this playfulness. If you pose a challenge to a 5-year-old to build a tower or to build anything, they'll just embrace it, they'll go on with it. It's that kind of fear factor that kicks in when you're older that stops you from doing that because of the perfection and the fear of failure, etc., etc. There are inquiry-based learning, for example, is suggested as a means in order to encourage children to actually lead, so it's more student-led rather than teacher-led, for example. So there are different techniques and approaches that we can use. But the reality is you have to find, and it's for you to find the creative solution within the framework that you're working in order to bring back these examples and to test them. To use some of these examples in the classroom. See how your school children at different ages respond to them. Yeah, and start to see, this isn't a finite science at the moment. Nobody knows quite what's switching off and what's switching on. But the one thing I'm absolutely convinced of is that we can re-engage that creativity. And I know myself, I've been through these activities the first time I was introduced to them. I would do exactly the same thing that you guys have done. But over time, as you start to appreciate a different approach, you can kind of instill that confidence in creativity. So it's a long answer to say, personally, I don't think schools themselves per se kill creativity, but we're not given enough opportunity to think divergently. Does that help?
From where did you get the statistical studies about diverse thinking?
So there are a number of different studies, and again, it's not an exact science to measure because it's a challenge to measure. So the first one in terms of the ages is by a research group called, led by a gentleman called George Land, and that was in 1968. The Torrance measure of creativity has also been around since the 60s. Okay, so those are two sort of tried and tested formula. But there is a question mark. It's similar to IQ. Have we got an exact measurement for that? Okay?
But what studies you're saying they're in the 60s? There are no recent studies done on them.
There are. Those have been used as kind of the guiding principles. And there is nothing which is currently that's in place that completely replaces them.
Because I guess creativity is now affected a lot by technology, which was...
No, absolutely. Yeah. But it's also the use of technology. So there are studies in terms of the use of technology and how that both helps and hinders school children. So I can't remember the country, I'm afraid, but I have seen in one country, school children are actually allowed to use the internet within school exams because it's accepted that in order to think divergently and to bring in other sources, then they need additional sources. Okay? Okay? Thank you.